Welcome back to another video on my channel. We're looking at Blues' current squad. You can see some names are in orange, some are in red, some are in white. I'm going to go into detail. I'm sure you probably know what it means, but we're also going to look at areas where I think we can improve, or maybe we need a bit more depth, or maybe we could do with a new first team player in that position. So make sure to like and subscribe to my channel and we'll get into it. As you can see, goalkeepers, Allsop and Beadle, I haven't really put them in an order that they're necessarily going to start in, any of these players. It's probably what we might go for. I mean, between Allsop and Beadle, I'd start with Allsop for the season anyway. I'm sure Beadle will get the nod, but I'd prefer us to have Allsop. So Allsop and Beadle, we've obviously got Brad Mayo as well as a third choice. Bailey Peacock Farrell has gone out on loan to Blackpool. Goalkeeper position sorted, happy with. Moving into the defence, so you can see Cochrane, Clara, Newman and Asai Samuel, and then also Laird as a right back, are all in white because they're going to stay, I believe. They're going to feature heavily. Couple of players in orange. Alphonse Samsted hasn't really had a look in since we took him on loan with an obligation to buy. Obviously now permanent. Don't think he's going to get much of a look in again because we've strengthened in that right back position with Asai Samuel. Bierlich, I've put him in orange because I don't know if we would necessarily get rid of him. He is a player that potentially wouldn't be happy with being on the bench. I don't think he's going to start many games, especially with Newman and Clara there. So Bierlich, whilst he'd be a brilliant backup centre-back, with the World Cup coming up in 2026, is he going to want to be a backup? Because if he's sitting on the bench for a side in the Championship, if we get promoted, I'm sure we'd sell him. So, again, is that really going to help his World Cup push? Probably not. So Bierlich is one that I could see departing, which is why he is in orange. Players in red, Sanderson and Buchanan. So Sanderson, I think, self-explanatory, hasn't featured in pre-season at all. Looks to be on his way out. Will probably reunite with John Eustace at Derby, but yeah, not fancied at all by Chris Davis. Understandably, I think he will be gone very shortly, within the next couple of weeks. I think he'll be gone before that Forest friendly for the Trevor Francis Memorial game. Buchanan at left back. Now, could be harsh that he's in red, but we've seen Knighthead can be quite cutthroat with managerial positions, definitely. Obviously, thinking about what happened with John Eustace to Rooney, but I think, they've got ambition, but they want it now. So, if you've got only Cochrane at left back because Buchanan is injured, and I do feel bad for him, he gets injured a lot and it always seems to be something bad, a long leg injury. But if he can't stay fit, I think Knighthead getting another left back, which means I think Buchanan could be on his way out. I wouldn't be surprised if he did go though, just because of how Knighthead will probably act. He could stay, but again, if he can't stay fit, we need another left back. We also need another centre back. Now, Bierlich could stay. If Bierlich stays, we need one more centre back. If Bierlich goes, we need two more centre backs. And I think we need a left back. Even if Buchanan stays, I think we need a left back because he's currently injured for a while anyway. So, not going to have much luck there if we have an injury to Cochrane, or with him having to play a lot of physical Championship minutes, he is going to need a rest at some point. Moving into midfield, so 3 players highlighted in white: Iwata, Doyle and Paik, all self-explanatory. Obviously Doyle's just joined us on loan. Iwata and Paik were brilliant last season and will stay. Who plays out of these 3? I don't know. Will 2 of them play? Will all 3 of them play? We saw a friendly on the weekend against Burton. All 3 of them started it, so maybe that's an idea. But, I mean, they're all good enough to be starting for a team that are pushing for the playoffs / promotion in the Championship. I would not be surprised if they all feature heavily. Moving on to the Orange players, Leonard and Taylor Gardner-Hickman. Now, there have been rumours that Leonard will go out on loan anyway. He's still very, very young, early 20s, isn't he? So, we signed him from Brighton for a low fee, but if he's not going to get minutes, send him out on loan to potentially another Championship club. I've heard rumours that Charlton are sniffing around. Get him minutes in the Championship, but not with us. At least it will develop him, because he's not going to start ahead of those three. And, I think it's a smart move, especially, again, for a player so young, give them that development. And I think he could quite comfortably play in any of the bottom half Championship sides. I think he could start for. So, yeah, Leonard, I think I'd send him out on loan. I think the club might as well. Taylor Gardner-Hickman, interesting one, because obviously versatile player, and that is something that is useful. Whether he can fill in at left back, I don't know, but centre mid, right back, on the wings, attacking mid, I think he played a couple of times as well last season, so he can cover a lot of positions, which is always good to have. But again, whether he's going to be happy just being a rotation player that is used in a versatile way, I'm not sure. He has played in the Championship plenty of times for West Brom and for Bristol City, so he's definitely got that Championship quality about him. But again, will he be happy with not featuring much? Because I don't think he'll get many games. He's not going to start many games, certainly. He might be one that comes off the bench because he's a good runner. But yeah, I don't know if he's going to start. I don't think he'll start, so I don't know if he'll be happy with that. Moving on to the further advanced midfield positions. So we'll start with the wings. On the left, we've got Damari Gray, obviously staying. We've just signed him. He is going to be our main left winger. And Keshi Anderson, who I think stepped up brilliantly last season. Can he do it in the Championship is a big question about him. But I think coming up with this group of players, with the confidence he gained last season, I think he'll be very, very good as a bench option for the left wing. So I'm happy with that. But for the wings, we don't have any right wingers other than Scott Wright, who is actually a right winger. I know Stansfield can play there, but we'll talk about him later. Scott Wright on the right wing, injured again a lot. Last season he kept getting little injuries, and now he's been out for a while. I think he got injured in the same game that Dykes did. Was it against Reading last season? And has been out since. So Scott Wright, similar to Buchanan, will Knighthead just say, sorry, you're not fit enough all the time. I don't know whether you're a good enough player for trying to achieve playoffs/promotion. Part ways, get one or two new right wingers in. We don't know. Emil Hansen, again, same boat, another player that has been riddled with injuries, and he was one that I was really excited about when he first joined because of how well he'd done over in the Netherlands, but it hasn't really materialised because it's so stop-start with him. Whether he can get himself fit and get a nice run of games, maybe we'll start to see the best of Emil Hansen, because he is a player that I don't think we've yet seen the best of. But again, are Knighthead going to wait for that, or are they just going to say, too injury prone, we're going to part ways? So I think they will be like that with a few players. Into attacking mid. Now, Fujimoto obviously will feature. We've just signed him. Thor, I think he will feature. Whether he's one that we paid a decent... Obviously, for League One, it was a decent fee. For the Championship, it's a decent fee. It was about 3 million reported. It's about 4 million euros, but I'm going to say 3 million because I think that was slightly inflated. Whether we keep Willem Williamson is a different story. Chris Davies seems to like that tall attacking midfielder who can link up play, but sometimes, since his injury that he had last season, sometimes he can look a little bit clumsy, and I don't know, maybe with more space in the Championship, because we're not going to have everyone sitting in behind, maybe he'll operate very well and this will help his performance. I'd keep him 100% and see how he does against Fujimoto. So yeah, that's Thor and Fujimoto, but Lyndon Dykes is in orange. I know he can play up front. Chris Davis seemed to use him a lot in rotation with Williamson last season in that 10 spot. So whether it's because Davis likes a physical attacking mid who can link up play and try and strike from distance, I don't know, but he seems to like having someone tall in that position. So Davis, I think, sees Dykes more of an attacking mid, but again, is he going to want to stay around? Because if he's third choice attacking mid and third/fourth choice striker, he's not going to get too many minutes. However, I will say, if we are using him as a striker, he is a very different option to the ones we have. And those ones are Kyogo Furuhashi, Stansfield. Stansfield can play on the right, which maybe that's where he is going to play, or maybe we'll buy a right winger. Who knows? I think we will be in the market for at least one winger though, maybe two. So if that's a starter, then how does Stansfield fit into this? But we'll speak about what we've got for now. So Furuhashi and Stansfield, obviously both good enough to start for most championship sides. Up front, Kyogo especially, because he's got that experience at this level. You know, Celtic fans, as I said in my previous video, said that he was the best striker they've had since Henrik Larsson. You know, his movement is brilliant, his finishing is brilliant. So to have him, he starts every game that is available up front, I think. So Stansfield, I'm assuming he's going to be starting on that wing, but he's an option up front. And then we look at Alfie May. I'd like to see him get a crack as a bit of a super sub. He's not going to be starting. Whether he wants to carry on playing first team football, he might drop to a lower championship side, or a less depth championship side. Maybe a newly promoted Charlton, maybe someone who's expected to finish quite low. So yeah, Alfie May's an interesting one. We'll see where Knighthead go with that. I'd love to keep him. I think he did a brilliant job last season, especially when we brought Stansfield in. May was still hitting good numbers. I know he had a period where he didn't score for a while, but then he started coming off the bench and impacting games very well. So, he's a striker that knows where the back of the net is. Is he the EFL top scorer in the last 3 seasons combined? Something like that. So, yeah, he's a very good striker to have at any club because he knows where the net is. You just need to create for him. So that's the squad we've currently got. Now, obviously, the players that are highlighted in red I think will be gone. I think you could argue maybe Hanson and Wright are orange and Buchanan, but I think Knighthead will just be very, very direct and honest with these players and say, we need players that are available. So where do we need to strengthen? Now, obviously, the lack of depth at right wing is worrying because Scott Wright is injured, so we don't actually have any right wingers. And I know we've got a couple of kids that can play there, but I'm talking about going for the playoffs in the Championship. So you'd think with Knighthead reportedly having 30 plus million to spend this summer, we've only actually spent, it's 10, but I don't know if it's split over the contracts or if there's any instalments or if that's with add-ons. So say we've spent 7 million so far on Furuhashi, that'll probably be something like the upfront fee. Then there's still a lot to go, and I know the loan fees for players like Doyle and the wages for Damari Gray are going to be high, but we've got money in the bank at the moment to spend. So I think right winger, we could see a big investment there. Left back and centre back are the other important positions. So Chris Davis has apparently came out and said that we are still in the market. There'll be 3 or 4 additions, it looks like. I think you can put a decent amount of money on the fact that one of those signings will be a right winger. I wouldn't be surprised if a second signing is a winger, whether it's someone that can play on both. And then a 4th centre-back, because you can't go with 3. Whether that's Ben Davies, I'm not sure. And another left-back. And then I think we've got a very strong squad to fight for playoffs, at least. So, they're my thoughts on the current Blues squad. Let me know if you think I'm correct about Knighthead being cutthroat. Do you think they'll give these players a bit of a chance to, fight for their position, fight for their fitness, and get back into the squad? Players in orange, do you see these players going out on loan, leaving the club, or do you think we'll keep them around? Obviously, every player in orange and red is not going to go, because then we're going to need about 6 or 7 signings, because we're not going to have much depth at all. So that is something to consider. But yeah, who would you like to see playing for Blues is another big one. Let me know down in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.